In the annals of American history, few figures are as enigmatic and controversial as William Hull. Born in the mid-18th century, Hull's life was steeped in the tumultuous events that shaped the fledgling nation. A soldier, a politician, a man of his times, Hull played a role in the American Revolutionary War that was as pivotal as it was varied. His military prowess saw him through numerous battles, earning him a reputation for bravery and tactical acumen. But Hull was not just a man of the battlefield. His political career saw him appointed as the governor of Michigan Territory, a position of considerable influence and responsibility. Here he navigated the complex world of land cessions under the Treaty of Detroit in 1807, negotiating with American Indian tribes in a delicate balance of diplomacy and power. Yet, for all his military and political accomplishments, it is a different chapter of Hull's life that has truly etched his name into the annals of history. Yet, it is Hull's actions during the War of 1812 that have cemented his place in history for better or worse. As the War of 1812 raged, Hull found himself at the helm of Fort Detroit, a critical stronghold in the conflict. A veteran of the American Revolutionary War and governor of Michigan Territory, Hull was no stranger to the battlefield. Yet, the circumstances surrounding the War of 1812 presented a unique and formidable challenge. Fort Detroit was a crucial outpost, a strategic bastion in the American frontier. Its possession meant control over the Detroit River, a vital waterway for trade and military transportation. It was here that Hull was entrusted with the defense of American interests, a responsibility that he bore with the weight of his previous military achievements. As the British forces began their offensive, Hull faced a dilemma. With limited resources and the looming threat of a powerful British and Native American alliance, he had to make a choice. The lives of his men and the fate of Fort Detroit hung in the balance. Hull's decision, however, was one that would echo in the annals of history. Faced with the overwhelming might of the enemy, he chose to surrender Fort Detroit without a fight. It was a decision that shocked many and was seen by some as an act of cowardice, while others viewed it as a strategic move to preserve the lives of his men. The fallout of this infamous decision was immediate and far-reaching. The loss of Fort Detroit gave the British a significant advantage, altering the course of the War of 1812. It also cast a long shadow over Hull's reputation, tainting his previous military achievements and marking him as a controversial figure in American history. The surrender of Fort Detroit would not only mark a significant turning point in the War of 1812, but also a pivotal moment in Hull's own life. In the wake of Fort Detroit's surrender, Hull found himself facing accusations of cowardice and treason. The nation was in uproar, and the public's faith in their military leadership was shaken. Hull's decision to surrender Fort Detroit without a fight was seen as a betrayal, a far cry from his earlier heroic exploits during the American Revolutionary War. He was swiftly brought before a court-martial, the gravity of the allegations against him matching the severity of the situation. The court-martial was a grim affair. The air was thick with tension, as the weight of Hull's decision hung heavily over the proceedings. The verdict was as swift as it was brutal. Hull was found guilty of cowardice and neglect of duty, and was sentenced to death. A sentence befitting what was seen as an act of treason. Yet, in an unexpected turn of events, Hull's life was spared. President James Madison, in an act of mercy, pardoned Hull. The pardon, however, did little to restore Hull's reputation. His name was tarnished, his military career in ruins. The public scorn was relentless, and Hull lived out the rest of his days under the shadow of his infamous decision. But, as with many tales of fall and redemption, Hull's story doesn't end in disgrace. Despite his controversial actions during the War of 1812, Hull's earlier service during the American Revolutionary War wasn't forgotten. His bravery and leadership in those earlier battles were remembered, and in time, helped to soften the harsh judgment of his later actions. In the end, the story of William Hull serves as a stark reminder of the complexities of war and leadership. It's a tale of heroism and cowardice, of triumph and defeat, of redemption in the face of disgrace. Despite his controversial actions and the subsequent fallout, Hull's story does not end in disgrace. William Hull's life and the War of 1812 offer a wealth of lessons for us to ponder. Hull's story, in particular, reveals the complexities of leadership and the heavy burden of decision-making during times of crisis. Take, for example, Hull's infamous choice to surrender Fort Detroit to the British. He was a seasoned military leader, a veteran of the American Revolutionary War. Yet his decision was largely influenced by the fear of an impending massacre. It was a decision that was made under immense pressure, demonstrating the difficult choices leaders often must make when the stakes are high. Hull's surrender of Fort Detroit was undoubtedly a low point in his career, and it led to his court-martial and a death sentence. But this is where another lesson from Hull's life comes into play: the power of redemption. Despite the harsh criticism and the severe punishment, Hull was pardoned by President James Madison. His story reminds us that failure, as devastating as it can be, is not the end. There is always room for redemption, for a second chance. The War of 1812 itself offers its own set of lessons. It was a conflict that highlighted the fragility of newly formed nations and the importance of unity in the face of external threats. It was a war that tested the resilience of the American spirit and emphasized the necessity of standing firm for one's beliefs and values. In the end, the story of William Hull serves as a reminder that our actions in times of crisis can define us, but they do not have to confine us. We can learn from our failures, we can seek redemption, and we can grow stronger through the trials we face. These are the timeless lessons that the story of William Hull and the War of 1812 continue to teach us.